I just wanted to say that 2 years ago, in 2007, 2.5 years ago, George Liebert was on Dan Gunn's critique panel and spoke of Robert Smithson and of his writings in particular, and I was really excited and inspired. And it wasn't just Smithson, it was also Liebert talking about Smithson. He had a certain way of speaking about it. And I ended up buying Smithson's writings and falling in love with Smithson because of this, and ever since I've had the dream of seeing Liebert talk about Smithson. So I approached him at the Poor Farm a couple of months ago, and he said yes, so we're very excited to have him.
Thanks. I don't know what came over me that I said yes. Bear with me. He doesn't bend very good today. Okay, so I sort of don't like his sculptures very much. I mean, it's sort of hard to deny the majesty of the great spiral jetty, but I'm supposed to keep twitching here too, right? And but the writing has really been really good for me, and off and on. And I have household gods, so Smithson is sort of a minor god. And, my house is full of clutter that is sort of totems for trips taken, friends, lovers, family, grandfathers, children. And I have, so these are like little gods and totems. And then, I think I go this one. Okay, oops, I'm going too fast. Okay. I have big gods. I sort of use culture as a navigation tool. And big gods really are major landmarks that help me know where I'm at. So Smithson's not as big a landmark for me as de Kooning or John Coltrane, but he's a minor god, more along the lines of my grandma's St. Francis statue in her bedroom when I was a child. Huh? So, and he's not a guitar god either, like Mark Liebert. Here he is among his paintings at 22, right? The Man of Sorrows here. And by 22, I'd sort of left my faith in revealed religion. This is like a confessional, right? Long ago. And he's sort of, you know, wallowing around with the stigmata and looking very dramatic, huh? He's sort of self-taught, never went to college. He went in the Army Reserve instead. Somewhat geeky. He had a natural history museum in his basement that he and his father set up. And when you look at the inventory of his library, it's really extensive. And there's a lot of science, and you have to keep in mind without higher mathematics. So it's also sort of sketchy. Anyway, I lost my faith at about 12, and then that started a very long, dark night of the soul. And then in 1966, there was light at the end of the tunnel. And Allen Ginsberg beckoned me into the Evergreen Review, which really was a major turning point for me. This is an index from an anthology. You can still get this for about $7 used. And can you read the names from where you're sitting? Well, the top one's Samuel Beckett, James Purdy, Jack Spicer, Jean-Paul Sartre, Henry Michaud, Kerouac, Elaine Robbe-Briot, Ferlinghetti, Kenneth Rexroth, Robert Duncan, Frank O'Hara. So when I found the Evergreen Review, which was a monthly magazine of culture, it was really a savior for me. It really provided a more pliable and, although ambiguous, a more comprehensible reality than that of my blue-collar Catholic family. So anyway, so I think I approached my art through literature. And it's kind of a weird magazine because it's also got these 6 to 8 page softcore spreads of wayward artist girls. So at about this time I decided that maybe I should be an artist. And I mean, I was 16, I didn't know what an existentialist was, but I was willing to learn. When I got to school, Smithson was in the air, you know, and there should be a joke here about being as interesting as a box of rocks. But he really was in the air when I got to school in 1968. I'm old. And in no time, I was lining up driftwood logs on the beaches north of Chicago, and photographing them, wading them out in the water, letting them drift in, and, you know, contemplating the second law of thermodynamics. So, and then in the old days, before the School of the Art Institute became a responsible small liberal arts college, one of the most self-indulgent and irresponsible people I've ever seen in my life was teaching the history of avant-garde film, Stan Brakhage. And the school actually published a book of vignettes of about 6 or 8 major filmmakers, starting with George Méliès, and then I think Eisenstein is probably the youngest in the crowd, Carl Dreyer, and he really continued this sort of emphasis and a connection between literature and visual arts. He's friends with lots of poets. He brought in Michael McClure almost every year. He brought in Ken Jacobs, Hollis Frampton, Bruce Conner, lots of unscheduled and really interesting guests. And if you read some of this, it's really pretty interesting. You can get this now too used as a, it's a Turtle Island Foundation. It was originally published by Good Line Press, which was something that the Art Institute had. But if you can't read this maybe, so I should read out loud. Now let me say it to you simply as I can. The search for an art, either in the making or the appreciation, is the most terrifying adventure imaginable. It is a search always into unexplored regions, and it threats the soul with terrible death at every turn. And it exhausts the mind utterly, and it leaves the body moving. Can you imagine? So, he also suggested in that we were going to see Kenneth Anger's inauguration of the Pleasure Dome next week, that it was made to be seen under the effects of LSD, and we should use our own judgment. So it was a different era in education, for sure. And then after Smithson's death in '79, Nancy Holt and Philip Leader put together his writings. And the thing with Brakhage was he was really impacted by a lot of authors. Robert Duncan and Charles Olson and Ezra Pound and William Carlos Williams were major household gods for Brakhage. And with the sort of mytho-poetic vision of those film biographies, I was really well primed when this came out in 1979, and I still carry it around.